Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw. This podcast is presented in 3 segments to support the energy of your authentic self. Each segment works with today's topic of seeing the world through a beautiful lens in a different way to bring forward a full and hearty message that is hopefully exactly what you needed to hear. In the Skylight segments of today's show, we will have Reiki Master and hair, makeup, and wardrobe stylist Janis Lozano as our guest. Before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spirit messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a few breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, and in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, allow your body to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe, so we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved as we tune in to receive. Seeing the world through a beautiful lens. As I sat down to receive the messages for this week's Unclouded Heart segment, the fact that the Barbie movie has been top in the box office for weeks didn't escape me. We actually have had the plans for this topic in the idea box long before it hit theaters, but our beautiful guest had been traveling and had scheduling conflicts, so it wasn't until recently that we could connect. Don't you love divine timing? Admittedly, I have not seen the movie yet, but the fact that so many people have commented to me about it is very telling. And I think it goes right along with what this topic is all about. Seeing the world through a beautiful lens isn't about being in denial or only seeing what you want to see or wearing rose-colored glasses. It's about having true positive perception that gives you the power to be able to see the world as it is and know it's a beautiful place. To live fully and wholly and authentically as yourself, as a piece of art, and embrace others as the same. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of hardships that you can only have to look at the news or log into social media to see. The truth is, life can be hard and beautiful at the same time. What shifts it from being hard and ugly to hard and beautiful is our perception. If you've ever heard me speak more than a handful of times, then you know I can really get going about false positivity. False positivity is false belief that things we don't like won't ever happen. It creates a veil over those things that we don't like and covers them with a wet blanket of denial. There in the dark of our unseeingness, they fester and silently pollute our ability to heal and stay whole. It makes it impossible for us to look at them and work on them due to this false belief. If we pretend that something we don't like doesn't exist or doesn't have the right to exist, then we also have to pretend that it is invisible and therefore doesn't need healing. We can't heal what we won't see. True positivity is knowing that things we like and things we don't like both can happen. It allows us to feel empowered in knowing that if something we don't like happens, we have the ability to look at it, understand it, and then heal ourselves using our higher vibrations. It is a beautiful thing to look at ourselves in a whole way. We can see our shadow and our light and honor that both exist while we are healing what needs to be healed in our shadow and strengthening what needs to be strengthened in our light simultaneously. To say it easily, false positivity is repression and true positivity is release. So, as we are looking at the world through a beautiful lens, I'm not urging you to close your eyes to the things that don't appeal to you. What I am urging you to think about is looking at them in a way that allows you to see them in a different light. Accept them in this moment while knowing the next can bring healing, and create a way that opens you up to possibility, which brings hope for change that has the ability to turn into growth.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Tarot by Sky, because it's your future. Tarot by Sky offers intuitive tarot and energy healing sessions, as well as life coaching, classes, spiritual guidance, and more. Offering sessions via Zoom, email, phone, or in the office in Greensboro, North Carolina, Sky is ready to help you turn change into growth. Book your session today on the web at tarotbysky.com and find her on Facebook and Instagram at Tarot by Sky. Coming up next, an interview with stylist Janis Lozano about seeing the world through a beautiful lens.
Welcome to the Skylight segment of today's show. Today we welcome special guest Janis Lozano, a hair and makeup artist and wardrobe stylist who works in fashion, commercial, print, TV, and film. She is also a certified yoga instructor, Reiki Master, and the owner of Pure Zen Living Healing Retreats. Since she was a child, she has always been involved in an artistic field, from singing and songwriting, dance, art, photography, jewelry design, acting, and finally makeup artistry, hairstyling, and special effects. Having worked for many years as a SAG actress, Janis was inspired by the leading makeup artists in the industry, picking up on tips along the way, eventually leading her to study her craft. From print, commercial, film, and television makeup to red carpet events, Janis is sought out for her talent and professionalism. Janis also happens to be someone who I admire in so many ways. So welcome for being here. I'm very grateful to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for you. And I also admire you in so many ways.
Oh.
Just so grateful to be here. And it's so nice to spend time with you and Audrey today.
Oh, yes. We are happy to have you. And I was thinking of the idea of seeing life through a beautiful lens, like that idea, because, as an artist, when I look at something, I know what's appealing to me and what isn't. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or that someone else, his version is going to be the same. But I think that there is some of that carnal energy in artistry that allows us to connect in our juicy bits and be like, yeah, this is a really great, feeling to see a beautiful person or a beautiful painting or, the many number of artistic things. And so when I was thinking of seeing a world through a beautiful lens, you were one of the people that came to my mind because you portray that so beautifully in your work. I'm always awestruck by the work that I see you post. And, it just really, your eye is just amazing when it comes to setting this stage in such a beautiful way with your hair, makeup, and set design. So when you think of seeing life through a beautiful lens, what does it mean to you, particularly in the art that you do?
So I think, back on that saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and how each type of beauty or type of art that we create, whether it's print or mixed media or painting or photography or film, it has to resonate within the human being. So what does it evoke? Does it evoke emotion? Does it bring back a memory? Is it something that you can relate to? And I think that's where the beauty really lies. I work in a very superficial field where, with makeup and hair and these fashion campaigns and commercial campaigns, we're selling something. We're selling the lifestyle. We're selling this, beautiful model living on this dream life that, let's face it, no one's living, because we're trying to sell a product. And having been in this industry for 27 years and thinking about how far we've come in how we represent and how diverse and how people are feeling more relatable now, because not everyone's a size 0. Not everyone has perfect skin. And let's be real, not even the models do. So, it takes a glam squad and Photoshop and editing to make everyone look so good. And so we were, I feel like 20, 30 years ago, we were selling this idea of beauty that wasn't achievable and that was very toxic, where now I find that a lot of my clients, they don't even want to retouch. They want to show freckles and scars and blemishes and tattoos and what makes that person unique. And it's so refreshing. And I'm so proud to be in this industry and how far it's come, because I feel like now people feel represented. Now, people are starting to feel seen and heard, and all sizes, all colors, all races, all sexual, orientations. And it's a really nice field to be a part of now.
That in itself is beautiful. Like, my heart really feels warm listening to you talk about that, because it is not only in the eye of the beholder, but in the eye of the creator. And so as the creator, when we put forward, something beautiful, especially that has deep meaning, like you were saying, representation, the ability for someone to see how they relate, someone like them, that just makes me teary and makes me happy.
It's powerful. It's powerful. I think about, the Little Mermaid, the film that just came out, having a Black woman representing her, and you see little girls' reactions to, Black little girls seeing themselves on film and seeing Ariel represented in something they can relate to. And it was such a powerful thing. And, seeing it more and more in different ways, I think it's really important. And I think that the industry has skewed in that manner, where we're starting to realize, like, it's not just a cookie cutter image anymore. And people, the consumers are smart. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, in what I do, we're selling a product. So, it all relates to, the consumers want to buy it. But there's a human aspect that we touch, in the sense of, do people feel comfortable? Do they feel heard and seen? Do they feel represented, in order for them to want to buy that product, or to go watch that movie or whatever?
And one of my personal beliefs is that you have to see the holes, the HOLE, in order to see the whole, the WHOLE. And, when that comes forward in such a beautiful, healing way, which is like, yes, someone has flaws and is still beautiful. Yes, the flaws are what makes some people beautiful. It allows us to accept imperfections. It allows us to accept uniqueness. It brings us to that space of, just being, and the interconnectedness of all beings. I don't have to look at something and believe I should be that. I can still be me and find it beautiful in that space. And I think that it's really just a grand healing that's going on all around in those spaces. Do you have a story that you want to share that kind of tunes into that idea of, like, seeing the holes, the HOLE, in order to see the whole? Is there something an antidote or story you can give us?
I think what comes to mind is, I started in front of the camera years and years ago. And one of the reasons why I transitioned into makeup artistry is because I was so tired of rejection. As an actor, you would go to auditions and they would size you up and down. And it was such a horrible thing. And I'm sure it's still going on to an extent, but people, would literally look at you under a microscope, and, they had no problem telling you needed to lose weight, or you needed to gain weight, or you weren't good enough, or you were too blonde or too brunette or too something. And it just deteriorated me. I mean, I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is no longer fun, because every time I go to an audition, I feel good about the audition. I feel good about my talent, but it comes down to the way I look. And if I was too skinny, I needed to gain weight. If I was too fat, I had to lose weight. It was always, I was too Hispanic. I was too this, too that. And it's like, this is who I am, and this isn't going to change. And how badly do I want this, really? And so I had to kind of look at myself and figure out, like, is this really good for me? Do I like feeling this way? Is this serving me in any purpose? And so that's when I started drawing myself more behind the scenes because I like the ability to be on set. I just love the energy on set. I like being around creatives, but I no longer wanted to be judged in that manner. And I love it because now I can go to work in pajamas. Like, who cares what I look like? I'm not on camera. I mean, I don't go to work in pajamas, but I could, joggers and no makeup. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I look like. What matters is what my hands can do and what the model looks like at the end of the day. And there's such a shift in power that I had lost and now I've gained in a sense of like self-love that I've gained from doing that, because prior to that, I was very down on myself when I was in front of the camera. And I would watch what I eat. I would watch, count carbs and I thought I was fat. And I look back at these photos and I was like, I was a size 0. Like what? How come I thought I was fat? I'd kill for that body now. Are you kidding? So it's just funny, but I thought I was the most ugly thing with, the biggest like person in the room. And you just like, don't realize how much the industry tears you down and how much you lose that self-love. And through, self-healing and meditation and yoga and Reiki, I've gained so much self-love. I can't imagine going back to that, and I couldn't imagine getting back in front of the camera. Like, no, thank you. It's not for me.
One time I was modeling for a clay sculpture session, so it was like a series of like 8 weeks where I was modeling for the class that they were doing this sculpture. And I remember it was about the 4th or 5th weekend, and I'm laying there, completely exposed to the whole entire class as they're doing whatever they're doing. And the instructor comes over and he just kind of like points at the tiny bulge that was my stomach and like the fat of the back of my buttocks. And he was like, see these places, you want to make sure that you get the fullness of them, the wholeness of them, like that little fatty pudge, you want to put that on your sculpture. And he wasn't saying it like it was there was no he really didn't mean it. Like it wasn't like he was saying like, look at your pudge, but he was trying to describe like seeing the curves. And then I had to lay there perfectly still for 2 more hours thinking about what he had said. And I realized like in that moment, that I really needed, it was one of those things, like you said, where I really needed to think about like how I absorbed other people's judgments. Like it wasn't even a technical judgment, but I realized for myself, like I couldn't take on anybody else's perception of me, even if it was for pay. Like I was what I was, and either it was good or not good, and I could continue to do this or not continue to do this, but like I couldn't take it on anymore. And that was a big aha moment for me as well, where I was like, wait a minute, am I happy? Yes. Okay. Anything past that, like that seems to be a you problem, not a me problem. Yeah.
Well,
so what would you
than I am? I could never do that.
I was very exploratory at points in my life.
Hey, why not?
So how would you suggest other people release that? How would you give people that sort of thought process to say, okay, maybe not choose the two of our ways of like exposing ourselves to a critique, but really like going like, how would you suggest someone break their inner critic so that they don't empower the outer critics?
I think a lot of it is practicing mindfulness and having that constant thought of, you are more than just this, you are more than the critique, you are more than this job. And being able to compartmentalize, to be able to strategically separate what you're doing for work and how it affects you personally. Because at the end of the day, I think about some of the models that I work with, and I mean, they're beautiful people inside and out, gorgeous. They get paid to look beautiful. And some of them walk in off the street and you would never think, oh, this is a model. They look like a regular person that, and then they get hair and makeup and they step in front of set and they come alive. And you're just like, wow, look, there they are. There's the persona. And, I went to see Beyonce, what was it, last week? And I thought about, as she was performing, the gaze that she had in her eyes and the fierceness in her steps and it was a different person. And she talks about having this like alter ego, Sasha Fierce. And it never really dawned on me until I saw it. And I'm like, you could tell that she's like stepping away from herself, and that this is the version of her that she chooses to show the world. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a way to protect herself, because it's not her. It's this Sasha Fierce person. And you see the difference. It's really odd. I've never seen her live. And so I could see it in person. And I thought, wow, look at that. She does really have an alter ego. And I'm not saying everyone needs an alter ego, but having the ability to kind of protect yourself and decide what it is you're going to share with the rest of the world, and know that like that isn't necessarily you. And I'm not saying like be fake, but be able to have like the thick skin in that person and know like, hey, nothing's personal, that this is just business. And then know that like that there is your own person that, maybe only your loved ones see, and that vulnerability, and that, individuality that no one else gets to see but your friends and family, and being able to separate both, and having just that thought in the back of your mind that like none of it is personal, and that this is who you're choosing to show the world.
Yeah. I think, there is something to be said when it comes to appropriate levels of connection. And so, what your partner or your romantic connection knows and sees and feels, and how that is, like, wouldn't be the same thing you would give to a coworker. You have different levels of appropriate connectivity. And so really, allowing that to be your truth, like allowing that is really important, because if we believe that everyone gains the same access to us, then we're giving out little bits of energy that we maybe, are inappropriately distributing to things that haven't earned it yet or haven't deserved it. It doesn't mean we ourselves are not whole. We stay in our wholeness, we stay in our pillar, we stay in our center, but we also realize what is the appropriate amount of connection, what is the appropriate amount of vulnerability, what is the appropriate amount of all of these things. And so, I read something once that said, if you wouldn't take their advice, don't take their criticism. So like, that's really, really important to remember when it comes to those kind of judgments of other people. It's like, well, would I ask that person for advice? Probably not. So why am I allowing them their criticism? They can have their criticism all day long, but why am I allowing it to affect me? So that's really powerful.
That is very powerful. That's a good point. I should practice that.
Yes, put it into practice. You got it. Do you have any other things you want to share about like seeing the world through a beautiful lens?
I think as an artist, but also as a female, we have this nurturing ability, not to say that men don't, but we definitely see things differently in a lot of ways. And just approaching things with kindness, especially in the job that I do, because a lot of times, they're long hours. Models are asked to do things like, we shoot winter in the middle of summer, they're burning up, and we shoot, summer in the middle of winter. These girls are getting in cold water and bikinis, and we're all bundled up outside, and sometimes because of timing, and we're there, and time is money, we got to get the shot. People forget that these are human beings. Mm-hmm. And so I always advocate for my talent, and that's kind of where I see myself as a nurturer for them, and always making sure that like they're comfortable, that they have water, that they have heat, that they have a coat, when they get out of the water and it's freezing outside. That we also understand like when enough is enough, even if we don't have the shot. Like, okay, at what point do we give these people a break and remember that they're human? They're not monkeys to perform, and not that like we would treat animals that way either, but it's just having that nurturing aspect as a woman and as an artist to understand that like, at the end of the day, we're not curing cancer. It's not rocket science. We're creating an ad for something that, most of the time people don't really need. It's not a need. It's not a must, it's a want. And so we have to remember to be human and to be humble and to be kind.
Which is literally advice for whether you're in your industry or anywhere, I think we could all take that piece really home and understand not only are we ourselves human and we act skillfully and unskillfully, but everyone we interact with, whether they are completely opposing to us or right next to us on everything we believe, they're still just being humans on the planet. And if we can focus some kindness and a little understanding, or at least trying to see them for, who they are and their humanness, then I think it'll bring us a lot closer to healing in a lot of ways. So that's a great. So I have 3 questions that I ask every guest.
Okay.
And so the first one is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
That to me is being your most authentic self and being true to yourself, because I feel like your soul guides everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to just live your truth,
Absolutely. And so what's one thing that you do for your self-care, no matter what, every day?
Every morning when I wake up, I take 5 minutes to be in gratitude. Grateful that I have another day on this earth. Grateful that I get to wake up next to my boyfriend or next to my dogs or, next to my family, the people that I love and care about. Grateful to have a job that I get to go to that I really adore. Grateful that I have a roof over my head and food on my plate, and that I get to experience life with all these beautiful human beings and on this beautiful earth. So just having that 5 minutes of gratitude, just centering myself and just being grateful in the day.
Oh, I love that. I do a gratitude practice as well. So for you, what does feeling centered and balanced look like in your life?
So center and balance for me is being able to juggle my life and keep my sanity. I definitely take more than what I can chew on my plate, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It keeps me young, I guess. But just being able to have my cake and eat it too, and I hate to say it that way, but just being able to do the things that I want and be with the people that I want to be with and travel and have my home life, and my animals are healthy and I'm healthy and my loved ones are healthy, and just having that harmony around me of all the things that I love and want. And that's what makes me feel the most centered. And being at home. I mean, home is a big part of that because I travel so much that I feel like when I get home is when I feel the most centered.
Yeah, definitely, I'm a Taurus, so like that home base foundation. And then I like visit lots of places, but I need that good centering at home.
Cancer here, so yeah. We tend to be a little introverted sometimes. We need that balance.
Mm-hmm. So this is Audrey. I produce the podcast. And so I've got a question for you. So as we're recording this, SAG is still on strike. So what kind of challenges has that thrown into the mix in terms of maintaining your daily practices and continuing to be your soul?
Yeah. So good point. Because a lot of people have been affected by the strike. I'm very grateful that I moved. So I moved from New York City to Greensboro about 7 years ago. The second time around, I went to school here. I did my university here in North Carolina and fell in love with it, and then came back 17 years later. And when I moved here, there wasn't as much film industry at the time. I think about like back in the 90s and early 2000s when like Dawson's Creek was here and One Tree Hill and those shows were filming constantly in Wilmington. The film industry was booming. And then the tax cuts got taken away and a lot of it went to Atlanta, a lot of it went to Canada. And so when I moved here, I kind of left the film industry in New York and got more into commercial work here because that's really what's here. We have a lot of company headquarters. We do a lot of e-commerce in this area. And so I'm grateful that most of my clients here are not film-based. They are mostly commercial work. And so the strike does not affect them. Unfortunately, I do have a lot of colleagues, and a lot of the talent that I work with is affected by the strike. And I have a lot of colleagues in New York and Savannah and Charleston who just aren't working because, it affects everybody from catering to makeup artists to hair to, location managers. I mean, there's a lot of people out of work right now that are SAG. And unfortunately, the rules are very clear and cut. No matter what state you're in, you cannot work in a SAG production. There are no SAG productions going on right now. So a lot of them have been trying to get more commercial work and print and fashion work where you don't have to be SAG, you don't have to be SAG eligible. There's no unions in that market. So it's a free, freelance market. And North Carolina being a right to work state, you can work in those productions as long as you are not a SAG member. And fortunately, since I don't act anymore, I don't have to worry about that end of it. But I have not been, I've been SAG eligible, which means that I have not paid my dues to SAG, but I could if I wanted to join up again. And since I'm not on camera anymore, it doesn't really apply to me. But there's a lot of people out of work right now, and it's very unfortunate to have a lot of colleagues who are doing gig work like Uber and Lyft and Amazon just so they can pay their bills.
And I think that that's also one of those things, and this is my personal opinion only, but I feel like it's one of those things where it is, the lack and the understanding of the artistic nature of things creates a gap in how people see things coming forward, because they look at it, the people who are in charge of the negotiations, as far as like, just from what I've seen overall, it's, they're measuring it by a work standard and not by an art standard. And that, I think, is everybody coming together in such camaraderie and saying, like, whether it's a person at this level, so to say, or a person at this level, like, we are all performing in art and we all deserve fair pay. And so I think that camaraderie really has, to me, just been beautiful to watch as in a hard situation, but really recognizing that, one of my personal beliefs, the podcast belief, is when the one is strengthened, the sum is strengthened. And on the other side of that, one of my personal beliefs is, when we work in community, like when we work in sum, then we empower all. And that is really also what's going on. So,
yeah, it is. And it is a very tight-knit community. And, they're not asking for things that are unfair.
Exactly.
You've got studio executives and studios who are making billions of dollars, and people are not paid fairly for, the work that they're doing. And there should be fair pay at the end of the day. And there shouldn't be, there's this thing with AI where, how far is too far, and how we apply certain technology into these industries where it's not only taking the human element out of it, but you're putting people out of work. And you're also creating contracts that, if someone's an extra and they just want to be a part of the production, and they go and they sign this contract and they're selling their likeness for the rest of their life, and they're getting $80. That is SAG scale for an extra a day, $80. And they're giving away their likeness to, now this AI can take their likeness and prop it in any film, television show, cartoon, billboard, video game. I mean, you name it, commercial, whatever. And that person is not paid out any royalty ever again, but that initial $80 a day that they made. How unfair and unjust is that? Yeah. And for them to say, oh, but this is just going to help us. No, you're cutting corners and you're putting a lot of people out of work. And I know a lot of people who make money just as an extra. I have friends in California who that's all they do is extra work, and that's how they make a living. They don't need to be a principal. They don't need to have lines. They like getting their $80 to $100 a day, and they go from set to set, and that's how they make a living. And it's really unfair and unjust what's going on and what's happening. And so I'm really glad to see people speaking up, and, like you said, the camaraderie of coming together and not budging until this is rectified, because that's super important.
I agree. So thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything that you want to bring up that is going on? Any offerings in any of your many endeavors that have to look out for? Or
Sure, nothing that comes to mind because I'm constantly working and I'm constantly putting stuff out there. But if anybody would like to see what I'm up to or what I'm doing, I'm not big on social media, so I just have one, and that's Instagram, and it's the Janis Mara, TheJanisMara, and that is where I post all work related stuff. I don't like social media for personal reasons. I'm just don't want to put myself out there, but
right.
I'm old school. If anybody wants to see my work or what I do or how I do it, it's always on there. I really like posting all the behind the scenes stuff because I think it's really cool. I have a lot of friends who are not in the industry and they're like, wow, like, so this is how the donuts are made. And I think it's neat, like there's this aspect of curiosity of people that like don't know what it takes to do a podcast or what it takes to run, a healing business like what you do. And so I think it's neat. And so I like to, whenever I can, post behind the scenes. Sometimes you can things, or under NDAs and stuff. But if anybody wants to see what I'm up to or what I'm doing,
that's totally worth a follow. Everybody should do it. Every time I see something, I'm like, "Oh, that's so amazing! So good."
I do have one cool thing. One of the coolest campaigns I've worked on in a long time just came out. It was for Under Armour, and it was for the women's soccer team. And they went to the World Cup, and I don't know if you guys have been following, but the aspect that I was a part of was Emily Fox. She's one of the players for the women's soccer team. And she's so cool. These girls, even her body double, Scarlett, just blew me away. Like, they were doing tricks and techniques all day and they had to do it over and over again. I was just in awe. These athletes and these women who just are just incredible, like just incredible. And to see the campaign come out and all the buzz behind, the US being in the World Cup, it was really neat. It was really cool. And I'm very proud to be a part of it. But that stuff's starting to roll out and some of it is on my social media.
Oh, definitely. I will definitely look because I'm always on your page.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to have had you. And this was such a great conversation. So many nuggets. I think so many people are really going to get a lot out of this.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's always such a treat to be in your presence. And it was so nice meeting Audrey and spending time with you both. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on as a guest as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Lil Bird Angel Bracelets. Lil Bird Angel Bracelets offer a variety of stones and gems to enhance your energy and support your vibe. This young entrepreneur does all the creative planning, bead choosing, and placements. She also helps package and ship. If you're looking for that perfect bling for your wrist, these bracelets offer the energetic and artistic energy you need. A portion of all sales go to Lil Bird's chosen charity. Learn more at lilbirdbracelets.com. That's LILBIRDBRACELETS.com, or on Instagram, Angel Bracelets Little Bird. This week in That's What Sky Says, you'll learn a technique for releasing limiting beliefs.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. Today, I'm bringing a meditation to help you with seeing the world through a beautiful lens by releasing limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is a thought or state of mind that you think is absolute truth and stops you from doing certain things. They create an inability to see things from a different perspective, or as if they cannot be any other way than the thought dictates. They can be about yourself, the world, a situation, or any number of things. Limiting beliefs make us feel powerless to change situations that aren't aligned with the thought. In order to identify a limiting belief, you need to look at a limiting statement, such as, "I don't have time for that," and then ask yourself, why? If the answer to your why sounds more like an excuse than a reason, simply put, this is a limiting belief. Another way to think about limiting beliefs is to try to think of solutions. A limiting belief will falsely tell you that there are no solutions, or that any solution you come up with will be inadequate. Keeping that in mind, try and identify a single limiting belief to work through as you do this exercise for the first time. Write the limiting belief at the top of a piece of paper in your journal. Then journal the following questions before doing your meditation. This will help you tune into the work that needs to be done. Eventually, you can do this for every limiting belief that comes into your awareness. Use this meditation on each limiting belief that needs releasing. Let's just take a few simple breaths to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And in through our nose and out through our mouth. And as we breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, we allow ourselves to come fully present in our body, mind, and energy. Opening up space for the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe, so we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved, as we open up space to release limiting beliefs. Bring awareness to your limiting belief. What is the core limiting belief? And when does this limiting belief activate in your life? Then bring awareness to the effects of this limiting belief. How does it control your choices and your actions? What effects does it have on your everyday life? Then simply contemplate on the fact that nothing lasts forever. As we tune into the understanding that energy is malleable, we also can align with the fact that this too can shift and change within us. Just as the limiting belief was formed, it can be released. Bring awareness to the interconnectedness of all things. Like you, others have had limiting beliefs. Like you, others have struggled with these beliefs. Like you, others have overcome these beliefs. The universe is connected to you and ready to help you shed your limiting beliefs. Bring awareness to a previously shed limiting belief, and if releasing it led to long-term peace and happiness. Can you think of a time when you changed a limiting belief and found great benefit in doing so? If you struggle with identifying one thing, think of your first day of school, learning to ride a bike, trying a new food, or some other time when you took a risk and now that action is natural and normal to you. Bring awareness to the ego attachment to the limiting belief. What false sense of control do you get by carrying this limiting belief? What story does the ego get to keep telling? Or what do you identify with when you hold this limiting belief as true? Then bring awareness towards what a whole and peaceful life might look like. What advantages you would have if this belief did not exist. What freedom would be yours if this limiting belief was not holding you back. And then envision yourself moving through the situation where the limiting belief arises. And then you move into healthy action despite it. See yourself successfully accomplishing whatever it is with grace and ease. See yourself connecting to the reward of your action. See yourself happy and at peace now that you've released the limiting belief and taken healthy action towards growth.
This is one of the 7 steps in Sky's 7 Steps to Manifest course, which is on the Be Your Soul virtual classroom. You can find it on our website, beyoursoul.org. While you're there, you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to previously released episodes, find free bonus content, and more. If you'd like early access to our podcast episodes, as well as PDF files for each episode's exercises, you can subscribe to our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Patreon allows the great work Sky is presenting to the universe to be supported by the collective. Find us at patreon.com/BeYourSoulSky. And as always, links are on our website. This podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios.